Hello, and welcome to the new episode of the Horror of It All movie podcast. I'm Eric.
I'm Adam.
Adam's back.
Woo!
If anybody listened to the last podcast, I was solo for that one. It was interesting, but it was still fun. I guess I can talk to myself and still have fun, but it's way more fun with Adam, of course. This week, figured we'll jump right into it this week because we did a lot of rambling on the last one about a whole bunch of stuff, but we watched The Return of the Living Dead, and it was in my top 5 favorite movies. I won't say where, because in case anybody still wants to check that out on my brother's podcast, that'd be cool. But it was Adam's first time, so we're basically here to hear his thoughts, and I'll pretty much just run through the movie and just have fun with it like we usually do. So
yeah.
So what were your initial thoughts, Adam?
Loved it.
Awesome. I had a feeling you would.
I went in pretty open-minded. You hadn't told me a whole lot about it,
right?
And I've only seen like little bits. I think mostly like the ads for it.
Oh sure.
Yeah. So it was basically fresh, and I loved it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't remember the first time I saw it, but I'm also not good with. Some people can do that and be like, "Oh, what's your first horror movie? What's your first this?" I was so young, I don't know. But I was old enough to remember how I saw it along with Return of the Living Dead 3 on like a movie channel. It was either the movie channel or Showtime. I don't remember. I think it was the movie channel. Which, as a kid, I discovered a lot of movies because randomly I'd have movie channels, or a relative would, or I'd be with my Aunt Kim and she'd have it, and that's how I actually discovered a lot of movies that I couldn't get at the video store, or at least movies that are like, it's always gone, but that's how I discovered it. And even that time, I was surprised how much I liked it at that time, only because it was the first thing like it, and I was already used to like Romero zombies, and this is not that.
No.
But there's a cool connection with that because John Russo, who wrote Night of the Living Dead with George Romero, they were still friends and everything. It wasn't anything like, there was no bad blood between them, but John went his own way and George went his own way, and it was more or less a third party thing, but they had to get it figured out, like who owns what. So John got of the Living Dead, and George got of the Dead, which I think I mentioned before, but it pertains to this one, so I wanted to mention it. So I thought that was a cool thing, and I did do more research on it, which was cool because I honestly didn't know, like, were they enemies? Was it was it bad blood or anything? And according to John, he said no. We were still friends. It was more or less a court thing on the side that we had to deal with and kind of move on with our career. So that was good. I like that. So I talked about all that stuff, and I wanted to mention the soundtrack and the score. I don't know if you thought how you thought about the soundtrack, but it was a pretty good soundtrack for the time, and it fit the movie very well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, it was very fitting.
Yeah. I even like the score. Like, even after I was watching it, there's hours after it that I'm still like bopping around in my head to this because the score's so good too. Like, I have the soundtrack 2 different ways. I have one that is just the music, like the songs, and then I have another one that has the songs, but it has clips from the movies woven in it. It's a download, but I'm sure you can get. I don't know if you can get that physically. I never tried, but it has that. But it also has the score woven into it, so it's a cool ride to listen to.
Oh, nice.
Then figured I'd go into the cast a bit. Clu Gulager played Bert. He had been in random horror movies, like he was in Nightmare on Elm Street 2. He was in a movie called Uninvited. He was random stuff. I think he was in Feast. That was a more like maybe 10, 15 years ago movie, but he was a little bit all over the place, but that was cool. James Karen, he played Frank, who was the guy that was training Freddy. He was in the movie Poltergeist. He was the realtor who I don't know again if you've caught Poltergeist, but there's a famous scene with him where the main dad of the family is talking to the realtor, and he figures out why it's haunted and everything is because you buried it, you didn't move the which will probably ruin the movie for people who haven't seen it. But he didn't move the cemetery. He just built the houses on top of them, so that's why there was the disturbance. But there's that famous scene from that. Tom Matthews played Freddy. He was also in Friday the 13th Part 6. Ironically, Tom Matthews and James Karen, who played Frank and Freddy, the two main guys that end up messing up the canister there, they're in Part 2 of Return, but as different characters, so that always threw me off a bit. That one's more on the silly side as opposed to this is, to me, it's a good equal like comedy horror. The second one's more comedy to me than horror, but
okay.
And then just a bunch of cool people other than in the cast. Beverly Randolph played Tina, who was Freddy's girlfriend. The guy who played Spider was in Friday the 13th Part 5. There's always memes going around, not as much as some famous ones, but there's a scene in it that always cracks me up because just randomly because he had dinner or something with his girlfriend and his brother, and he's like, "Those damn enchiladas!" But for some reason, people thought that was funny. It's just the way he says it. But and other than that, I mean, Lena Quigley's in it. She was in Silent Night, Deadly Night. She was the one that got impaled with the horns there. I don't know if you noticed that because it wasn't that long after it, but her infamous scene when she got naked and it kind of looked funny. Maybe not today, her area, but it was always silly to me because I watched so many movies, and even from that time, I'm like, what are you talking about? That maybe you would have had trouble with getting a rating, but they made her put this weird like plastic thing over her area, so they couldn't show the pubic region, and I'm like, that was kind of stupid. The cast affectionately, I believe, referred to it as the plug. Something like that. But
jeez,
I don't think it was actually a plug, but that's
yeah.
But yeah, and then there was one girl that she wasn't in it too much named Casey that I wanted to mention. Some people might care about this. I found it interesting, not necessarily cared, but I was like, really? Because this is a new thing that I found out after I watched it recently. Her name is Jewel Shepard, and before Night of the Living Dead, she did a bunch of like Night of the Living Dead and B movies, but before that, she actually did porn, and I didn't know that.
Oh,
I'm like, alrighty. Yeah, I can. From there, that's a good majority of the cast. I had to mention some lines. I'm sure you noticed some great lines in it. Like probably one of my favorite ones is the one where Suicide's talking and who is it? Trash, Lena Quigley's character, is like rubbing up against him, and he's like, "You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life."
And then right after he pushes her off, he's like, "Respect the dead."
Yeah. He has a lot of great lines. He the guy who played him, unfortunately, in I want to say the 90s, maybe the early 2000s. I can't remember the exact time frame, but it wasn't too long after the movie. He got like leukemia or something, and he passed away.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Another one that I liked was when they were getting all when they called Bert and they brought him in, and that awesome scene with that fucking pickaxe, and it goes through the guy's head, and they're like, "What the hell?" Because they're talking about Night of the Living Dead, and they're like, "It didn't work. It didn't work." And who was it? I can't remember who screamed it. Oh, Frank was like, "It worked in the movie," and then Freddy's like, "Didn't the movie lie?" That was like that. What are some other good ones? I would say the Trash character with her like weird like it almost like death turned her on or something, and but the line where they at that time it was weird that he was hanging out with punks because mods didn't really hang out with the dude with like the suit and the tie, but it's like mangy kind of like That's at that time that's what I remember as a mod. But whereas like I like sex with death. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death? And he's like, and she was like, yeah. So fuck off and die.
Yeah. I was dying on that one.
Yeah, it was a great line. Yeah, the movie was greatly written, not just the story, but just random lines. But with the one with Trash, we're like, do you ever fantasize about being killed? And the Spider's like, never. Do you ever wonder about all the different ways of dying, violently, and wonder like, what would it be the most horrible way to die? And he's just like, I try not to think about death so much. But then remember she went into the whole like how she wants to die and how they would be, and then she got basically her wish in a morbid way. Yeah. I did mention 3. They don't really go together necessarily, but it's still a continuing with the chemical. The tricks. I'll get to that. 2,5,4 trioxin. That's but I wanted to mention 3 because 3, I really love 3. It's a different one. It's a bit of I don't know. It's like a bit of a love story zombie movie. Like the girl dies, and his dad works at this like army place that is keeping this stuff contained, but they broke in earlier in the movie and saw what they were doing. So that's how he brought her back. But obviously, when she came back, she wasn't exactly her. But when she came back from it, it was a little bit different than like say Freddie and Frank, where she was still herself, but then she was noticing different things. Like she was really hungry, and she was like, the pain made like she'd hurt herself, and like put like if you ever look up a picture, she's got like fucking screws and pins and like everything all poked into her because that helps the hunger or something.
I think I saw it. She has like glass coming out of her cheek.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Getting off base with the 3, but I wanted to mention it. So I'll get into the movie. I like the before the movie even starts thing. It's already telling you or trying to tell you that this is a true story. The events portrayed in this film are all true, and the names are real names, and the people are real, and the organizations are real. I'm like, I wonder who believed that at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie starts with Frank showing Freddy around Unida. I always like the name of the place, the Unida Medical Supply warehouse. And he was training him and telling him about what they do there and other things they show, and then he shows him a corpse with like one of those like I don't even know what it's called, but the ones with like the hooks on both sides of the head.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called.
It was like one in there, just ironically one. But I thought that was interesting. But then they get into the conversation, like I just briefly talked about. Did you ever see the movie Night of the Living Dead? Frank asked Freddy, and then they just go into it, and he's like, "Yeah, the military accidentally sent one of those canisters down here." And I love him, like how he's talking about it and everything, and like, no, they messed up the like. But he's like, in the movie they did this or whatever, and they're like, no, they just messed with with what actually happened and blah blah blah. But I love when they finally go down, and it seems so easy to do. Like Frank just wipes it off with a whole roll of toilet paper towels. Me as a kid, I never noticed that, but as an adult, I'm like, what are you doing? I conserve things so much, and I'm like, why are you wasting? That's a side note. That's just my obsessiveness, but I got a kick out of when Frank was like, "No, this is Army engineer, the Corps of Engineers." And he's like, because Freddy was like, "Does it leak?" And he's like, "No," and he just pretty much just taps the drum and then starts leaking. I'm like,
the
really?
well just explodes.
It was real hard. Great canisters they put him in. And then like the beginning credits start. And then they flash to I guess he was an army sergeant. You don't really see him except briefly at the beginning and briefly at the end, but he seemed like a leader of trying to locate these canisters that had ended up disappearing. But he had a good line I liked. That it was it was stupid, but his wife comes in. She's like, "How was your day, honey?" And he's just like crap, usual crap, like so serious.
Yeah.
And then it goes to well, I won't go scene by scene, but stuff that were like brief favorite things, like when Suicide's driving and they're all in the car, and he just whips around and starts choking Spider while he's driving, and a train's coming.
Yeah.
that was funny.
That's crap that my friends and I have done.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then his, that's one thing I wanted to mention. I always kind of refer to this movie as like a punk rock horror, like a punk rock zombie movie in a way, because of them, and it's just different, and it's like it's trying to be different, kind of thing. But and then they all get there to the cemetery, and Tina breaks off from the group to go get Freddy. Obviously, she doesn't know what's going on, and she ends up finding. Oh no, I'm jumping ahead. No, because they wake up. That's right. Freddy and Frank wake up, and you notice that the corpse isn't in the drum anymore, and then Frank was like, "It must," or I don't remember if it was Frank or Freddy that said it, but it must have dissolved when it hit the air or some shit. But little do we know later on in the movie that it was Tarman. That's what they call him. I don't know if they even mentioned that.
No,
but
I saw that later on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, they don't say it in the movie at all. And at first it's like, who? And then it kind of clicked.
Right. And they just wake up coughing, and then they mention that. And then they go upstairs, and everything's alive. I like that. Like even the split dogs and the butterflies on the wall. Like it's so many little things that you got to catch. But
the butterflies, I caught that. I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, exactly. Anything that was dead, basically. And then if it's a person that was already alive, we find out later what happens with them. But when they breathe in this stuff, but I can't remember what the stuff was, but I do remember the line. Freddy calling Frank, "You stupid asshole! Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job." And Freddy's like this job? Like it's this glorious thing.
Yeah.
Like fuck you.
It's like, why do I want to stay here?
Yeah, exactly. And then they call Bert and tell him what the situation is. After calling that Night of the Living Dead zombies were killed by having their brains destroyed, they're like, "Hey, that's where when I already mentioned that. Like, didn't it work in the movie?" And like the pick scene, I did mention that already. Mm-hmm. But that scene was cool because nothing happens and it just keeps running around. But that sound when Bert's like, it gets the hacksaw and it's like it's still making like as it's his head off. That was so awesome. But then before it goes to the next scene, I love Bert's line where he's like, "Give me the bone saw," but it's the way he says it, like all like menacing. But then Bert decides the only option is to go to like the pieces of corpses and like the dogs and all that stuff, bring them to the nearby mortuary owned by Ernie, his friend Ernie. But at this point, I want to kind of break off and say, did you happen to notice the weird connection there with his name's Bert and his name's Ernie?
I did not notice it.
That was silly. I was like, was that on purpose? Or?
I was reading on IMDb and I saw that pop up, and apparently he didn't make that connection. Like he just kind of picked two names, and it was a weird coincidence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll go with it.
That's another. There you go. You add that to your list of stuff that you just put in my brain because I didn't know. I can't know everything. But then Bert starts to explain to Ernie that he needs a big favor and he needs to burn some stuff because he got some rabid weasels. I was like that's what they went with.
Yeah.
Rabid weasels. He's like, so Ernie's like, well, why don't we just go outside and just shoot them? And he's like, well, I it's not humane or something like that. We can't do that or whatever. And then they end up just putting him in there, and that's what we figure out is what makes all the other zombies, because they're next to a cemetery. Of course they are. It's a mortuary, and the smoke goes up the chimney, and then it rains, and that's how it starts. And I thought that was a cool, very different. Again, this is just a very different take on a zombie movie overall. Like why they turn into zombies, and I just thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was neat that like it wasn't a bite that caused this infection to spread. It was like the rain mixed with the chemical, and it actually spread out naturally.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to mention like the about what if people haven't seen this. I'm not going to give this movie credit for doing that because I find this is a negative thing, but that in this movie they don't eat flesh, they eat brains. And I know whoever thinks that as a normal thing is not the case, but if you haven't seen this movie and you're continuing to say that zombies eat brains, you're just going with the mainstream because where else would you have got it? Like, because I don't think it was this movie that made it popular culture or whatever, but I could be wrong. And then, so from there, Tina goes to the basement, and she sees Tarman, and I love his reveal. He just turns around and he gets all excited and brains.
Yeah.
I like how they talk too. Like that might throw some people off, but again, they're trying everything to be not Night of the Living Dead. But I like that.
Yeah, I especially liked him. Like, he looked like such a good zombie, and just the greasy tar on him and everything. It was perfect.
Yeah, definitely. He was. I still do, but I don't. I've misplaced it. But I had a cool Tarman shirt. But yeah. Let's see. I talked about that. And then you'd mentioned the acid in the rain with Freddy's friends. They're like it burns because they went in Freddy's car and his roof leaks and but yeah, I briefly said that, but I thought it was interesting what happens to Frank and Freddy on how they died technically because they in a way died when they got knocked out by the chemical, but they didn't really know it because they knew they felt sick, but they just were like, we're still walking, we're still talking,
Yeah, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. And then they start explaining what happened to Ernie, and then I could be mixing up things because I was writing random stuff, but when they really started getting nervous is when they called the ambulance and they were like taking their vital signs and they had no vital signs. They're like, no blood pressure, no pulse. What do you mean? Like, are we dead? And he's like, well, no, but technically you're not alive. And then let's see. And then I will say this too, like not even because this is it's a whole different monster. Another thing they're different from George Romero's zombies. Granted, George Romero's zombies evolved like as of Day of the Dead and later, where they got smarter. But these ones just seem really smart. Like the one that not just them talking, but they know exactly what to do and what to say, and like when that one got in, when the paramedics got eaten or whatever, and he just went in and got on the thing like, oh, you would, like, as a human, send more paramedics.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, they're not dumb, they just happen to be dead.
Basically, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. And then Freddy's friends go to the warehouse and end up finding. I thought that was an interesting little thing, and it's not even that interesting. But the big thing about the broken third step, I always got thinking about that. Like, was that broken in the shooting of the movie, and they just had to keep going because they continuously like watch that step, watch that step, watch out. Like, it's almost like, I don't know, like something that's insignificant. It would be like, would that in the script? Maybe, I don't think so, but I could be just overthinking it.
Well, I have a fun fact for you.
Okay.
Apparently, it was all planned, but they didn't tell her that it was going to happen later on. So when she's running up the stairs and it snaps, that was unintentional. Like she didn't know it was going to go down.
Okay, so they wanted a real reaction, basically.
Yeah. They switched out the step for a fake one just to get her reaction.
Awesome job, buddy. I didn't know that either. Yay! More information in my head of never-ending information. But yeah, and then his friends go there and they discover the Tar Man, and I like that. Suicide's kill was pretty brutal when Tar Man like just takes that giant chunk out of his head and you see the brain come out, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
Brutal, yeah.
But the group there ended up leaving like no choice but to abandon Suicide and barricaded the door because I mean they don't know that he's dead or what, but what they just saw, they're like he's probably dead.
Yeah.
But they contain Tar Man, of course. And then some of them go to the mortuary, which was on the other side of the graveyard, which I think you kind of got that from other stuff that I was talking about, but I don't know why I wrote that. However, some split up, and then let's see, what was it? I mentioned that about Trash. She gets her wish there with all the men eating her alive or whatever she says. I can't remember exactly.
Surrounded by old men eating me alive. I think that was it.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. Let's see. And then once they make it to the mortuary, like again, I could be jumping around wrong scenes, but I like the where they got inside and they're trying to explain it to him, and they don't know exactly what's going on inside either, but they hear shit, and they're like, there's like 100 of those fuckers, and they look at him like 100. I was really like that line because they were just so dead serious. Like 100, like what are we gonna do? Like, there's definitely a doom in this movie where you're like, what can possibly be the outcome of this? Like, it's not like, again, it's not like George Romero zombies where you can just kill them. Like, you can't really kill these. I mean, there are ways, but then it just creates more. So it's like, you're doomed essentially.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then, I wanted to mention the little dude outside when Ernie goes outside, and you can tell he's definitely missing like part of an arm and like part of a leg, but he kind of looks like a little person. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that scene was so cool because he's just like all angry, like he's bothering him when he's having his dinner, and he's like, yeah. I just love when he runs after him, how he looks. That was actually a. Hopefully, I'm not taking any because you had some cool little tidbits that this I did know about. He was actually an amputee, and they just made him up, and he was just missing like a leg and an arm and this and that, and it worked out for that little zombie.
Nice.
I also love the part where Ernie's trying to move the chest when they're trying to get in the door or whatever, and he picks it up, and everybody's just seemed like, because they're all like in shock, and Ernie just yells at him, he's like, help me! He's like, don't you know what I'm doing right now?
That was such like a real world moment. I loved it.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
And then Freddy, that's when Freddy starts to like complain that he's in like so much pain, and then that's when Ernie takes a look at him and he tells him that it's rigor mortis that's setting in. I thought that was a very surreal scene, like add to the doom of like what happens to you, even if you like you said, he didn't get bit, but he breathed the chemical, so. Mm-hmm. And then where am I? Oh yeah, and then as they fight, they keep the zombies out, and another great head chunk with Scuzz, that guy, and that that really, really decayed woman, and that they end up having to cut her in half just to get the fucking, because they're like, I can't push her outside, so they had to cut her in half, like from her spine. And then they figured out that, well, maybe we can get some information from this thing because they talk. So they tie her to like an embalming table and asked her like, why do you eat people? And she's like, not people, brains. And then she explained the whole pain of being dead, and she can feel herself rot, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. But and then eating brains makes the pain go away, and I was like, that is such a different, like, again, add more to the differentness of this movie. Like,
yeah,
this is the original isn't a big enough word for it. And then I love the reveal of Trash too, like when she turns and she does that weird little stance up thing when she comes out of the mud there, and then she's just walking down the street naked, and there's like this homeless guy, and I just love how abrupt it is because he's just staring at her like there's some naked woman just walking towards me, and then abruptly like I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, she just goes for his throat.
Yeah, it was just so abrupt and in your face. I love that. And then what was another good part that I liked when they brought Frank and Freddie to the mortuary because they were like they might turn like them or whatever, and then of course Tina didn't want to leave her boyfriend because she doesn't really understand what's going on. And then cops come, but that didn't last long at all. And then another famous line from another zombie: "Send more cops." I was like the tone too, like they're hoarse, but they're dead, of course. So yeah. Send more cops. But then there was another. Wasn't there one that had like a really deep voice, like for whatever reason, and the other ones didn't? Like he was like, I can't remember. Come in, dispatch. That guy.
Yeah,
that was interesting because I'm like, what? How does he have that? Whatever. Like, why is his voice so different? And then I really like the line from Ernie when he was watching all this happen, and then he's just like, everybody that comes here, this place just swallows them up. He had quite a few good lines that I like not funny ones, but he had like serious ones. Other than like, even though it was dead serious, the help me one, like you said, that was so real life.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then Freddie turns to Tina as he starts to awake, and then he's like, I finally see what will end all this horrible suffering, live brains. And then he's one of them. And I like how I've been saying his name the whole time, Frank, he hadn't quite turned yet, so when this is like going on, he like runs out of the chapel, or maybe I'm thinking he did, because they get Freddie in the face with the acid, and,
and he just bails.
Yeah, definitely. And then Bert goes, I like how Bert goes with Spider, because they're looking like, we could make it to one of those cop cars or whatever, and they do escape, but all they really do is bust open the fucking gate, but it didn't really matter, because when they busted open the gate, remember, they're already outside because Trash went outside. So that's how I took it. But if you really think about it, it was probably more than that, because obviously it didn't just rain at the cemetery. So this is probably going all over town already. So, because I remember when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, you idiot, you're going to let him out. And then I'm like, no, man. And they're already out. It didn't matter that they broke the gate. And then and then when they're like, come on, we got to go back, and they're like, they have this argument in the car, and then they ended up getting back to the place, the You Need a Medical Supply. And I'm getting towards the end of the movie. Was there any other things that you had, like notes or anything that you wanted to talk about or mention? Or did you mention
the furnace scene when
Yes. Thank you. I almost didn't forget that. You could, if you want, you can go ahead to that one, because you had that. That was a very like I guess like bittersweet, like heartbreaking kind of scene.
Yeah. When Frank, he finally runs to the furnace and starts it up, and he's just like, I'm sorry, and he hangs up his ring and then crawls in and closes it on himself. I thought that was pretty intense. And then
it was.
Yeah, and one of the things I read on that was his death wasn't supposed to be like that. He was supposed to he was supposed to change, and then he was going to be a part of like the bigger horde, And James Caron came up with the idea of like, what if he apologized to his wife and he kind of went out on like his own accord.
Oh wow, I might have heard, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
that's awesome, cool. I don't know where to get these deep facts from, because you would think I would know them, but you surprise me every time. That's cool.
IMDb.
Yeah, all right, yeah. True. And again, sometimes not always, because I know when it's a brand new fact in my head, but sometimes I think like when I feel it sounds familiar, but I'm not 100% sure. Not like this one, but sometimes I'll hear a fact and I'm like, I think I know that, but I have so many facts in my brain that sometimes it's like some get moved over that are cooler or something. Obviously not, but but no, that's really cool. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think I had that in my notes, but you said it better than I was gonna, so awesome. And then where Bert and Spider get back to you need it. Oh, that's what I was saying. And a couple of Freddy's friends are still there, and they head to the basement. But they're like, you can't go down there. The basement's fucked. But I love how they like creepily get the door open, and Tarman comes out. I just love that fucking swing that Bert gives and just knocks his head off like perfectly. I thought that was awesome. One thing I didn't end up writing that I thought was a very like, oh fuck scene was when I think it was the same time with the help me thing, but maybe I'm thinking of something. No. It was when they were trying to put like a pew, I think, in front of the chapel, and somehow Ernie's leg got under it and he fucking broke his ankle. I just saw it when it because it happened so quickly that you're like, oh my god, what's happened? And then and then Bert's like yelling at him. Of course he is, but he's like, come on. And he's like, you can do it. And he's like, all right, yeah. And he's like, how's your leg? How's your ankle? It's broke. But I thought that was kind of intense, because that's a real thing that could have happened. All he did is just catch it just right on the bottom of that pew, and those fucking pews are heavy.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then they proceed to the basement to get the number on the canister, because they're like, they'll know what to do. And this goes back to what we were talking about with how can this possibly end? And so I know when I first saw it, I'm like, I don't know, like what could possibly happen? And they call the number, and Bert's like, it's like they were waiting for this. They're prepared for this. So we're getting like they slowly start, like the terror starts to dissipate, and they're like, almost like, I don't remember their lines, but like, oh, so there's a chance we'll be okay or whatever. And then they start hearing that like bomb off in the distance, and it just making that like, like, and they're just thinking like, what is that? And I love the reveal of they flash to, because I didn't mention that, but when Ernie gets in like the crawl space, I think it was, with Tina, and I love like right before it explodes, like Freddy bursts through the door, and it's just that like Tina, like the echo, and then the explosion, and then you start hearing like news reports, or I don't know if it's news reports or it's just the army talking, but they're like, no, I think it's all been taken care of, other than a few people talking about the rain it burns them for some reason. And as a viewer, you're just thinking out that you didn't do anything, you just you just made it worse.
Slowed it down at first.
Yeah, at first, exactly. But yeah, and then it happens twice in the movie. I didn't mention it before, but one of my favorite dorky parts is just and it's how it ends too, with the skeleton that comes up, and then it's just mouth opens, and then that song comes on. I love that song. Do you want a party? Time. And then I like how they go through like different clips in the movie, like lines that even you liked when you're watching the line, or like the echo of the silliness. I was like, it's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert. Man, but every time I watch this, I have fun with it. That's why it's in my top 5 favorite horror movies.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you had fun, but out of all the movies that we've watched together essentially, but or that you've watched for the first time. This one, out of all of them so far, was definitely one that I didn't really have too much of a, well, will he like it?
Yeah.
You know, I had a pretty good idea. I mean, anything's possible, but
yeah. No, you've been telling me that I like it since almost since we started hanging out. So
really,
yeah.
I hit a button. Nope. Okay. And but yeah, one thing I wanted to mention that is I already kind of mentioned, but I wrote this, so I wanted to say it was, with these zombies, it's like there's no hope. There's no all you can do, like the obviously the head thing. No, like nothing works. They think that when you burn them, that's what helps, but it just adds more zombies.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it just starts all over again. But I'm really glad that you liked it, even though again I didn't really have any like much doubt really anything, but I thought it was cool, so I'm glad you liked it. Out of we mentioned this once before, could you do a rating like out of 5? What you would say, like 5-star or?
Oh, I would
1 to 4.
I'd give it a solid 4.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm glad I own it. I will watch it again and again. It was nice. Fun. Yep.
Now, me. I was like, when did you get it? I think it was one of the ones I gave you when I gave you a bunch of movies, right? Or did you buy it?
No, it was one of like the first stacks you gave me. You're like, here.
Yeah, definitely. It helped both of us out because I had either duplicates or this or that, and then I know there's been movies you've been meaning to watch. So I was just like, yeah, when you came that for Ozzy that time, I was just like yeah, take it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it like too if you didn't have the room, but you were like, no, it's cool.
Yeah, I'll make it work.
Yeah. But was there anything else that you wanted to mention about the movie that maybe you wrote down or whatever?
One of the small things that stood out. You were talking about the skeleton that pops out of the grave. I read that Dan O'Bannon, the director, it was his least favorite effect from the whole movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess like it didn't quite go how he pictured it, and he was just like, "Meh, it's fine."
Yeah. Okay, I kind of get where he's coming from, but as a viewer, and I think the song helps make it better. Like that's one of my favorite like parts, and it happens twice. So
yeah, the whole moment definitely makes it worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And was that the last one that you think he had, or?
Oh, one more, and this is pretty much it. But going way back, the scene where the barrel, right after the barrel like leaks all the gas, and you see the tar man, like he starts to melt. I read that all they did was like a wax face, and they heated up the canister itself. So it was actually dripping and everything, but the glass crack was on accident. It was just too much, and it went. So nice. I thought that was pretty cool because it looked so good. Like I just assumed that whole thing was planned to like a T.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. I did hear that one, but I've always thought it was pretty cool. I like when I find it really interesting when things like that happen and they're not intentional.
Yeah, like Bob Ross happy accident.
At the same time. What did you say? Sorry.
Oh no, the Bob Ross and his happy accidents.
Yeah. If that's all you have, I did want to mention myself. Anybody out there, like, if what did I give you? Was it a DVD, a Blu-ray? I don't even remember.
DVD.
If you ever want to, because you liked it so much, and anybody out there that either doesn't own it or wants to upgrade, you should check out the Scream Factory edition.
Okay.
It's 2 discs, and it's got a ton of special features. One of the main special features on it is on the second disc, and it is, I think it's on the second disc. I'm looking at it right now. It's called More Brains, a Return of the Living Dead definitive documentary. It came out a few years before this Blu-ray set that I have in my hand as a DVD, but it was really cool they included it as a special feature. But there's tons of stuff like there's a guy named he does Horus Hologrounds. I met him a couple of times. But yeah, he does locations of movies and like goes to them today. Cool. But it's really cool. And there's a lot of them on the Screen Factory Blu-rays and DVDs mostly, but you can find them online some stuff. But there's some really good ones that he definitely does. But I can't. I wish I know his name, like my own name sometimes. But then when I'm talking about it, I'm like his name's Sean. I know that, but
okay.
But yeah, definitely. Like even before, if you can't, if you want to get this like to upgrade or whatever, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm definitely down.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's he's been doing them for quite a few years actually. It was like it's cool. It's a quick little thing. It's about the length of like an episode of a TV show, like 20 minutes or whatever. But yeah, it's called Horus Hologrounds. It's one of my favorite things, like a selling ploy. Like if I see it on a disc, even if I'm on the fence, if I see that, I'm like, yep. But man, I'm gonna kick myself because I hate that. But and you didn't have anything else to talk about, so I can't think of anything for you to say while I try to figure out his name. Sean Clark, thank you. Good. Thank you, Brave. Thank you. Before the episode was over.
Nice.
But yeah, his name's Sean Clark. I met him at Rock and Shock, and I also met him at another convention. But he's a super great guy, and he's a lot of fun. Anyway, off base with that. But yeah, anybody who wants to check this out, you probably can't get it brand new with the slipcase anymore. But some people don't care about that, so that's cool. I'm a bit of a collector, so I prefer that myself. I don't know how exactly you are, but
yeah, it definitely depends on the movie.
Okay. For the most part, I'm a pretty big slipcase guy, like almost to like the anal point. Like, this has a slipcase, where is it? Like, but this was definitely a fun one. It took a bit to do, but I'm glad we finally did it.
Yeah.
I would say, because going back to the Star thing, it's in my top 5 favorite horror movies. So for me, it's definitely a 5 out of 5 for me. I love this movie, and no matter how many times I watch it, like I said, I like the sequels. If you ever want to check them out, I definitely recommend those, especially the first 3. The ones that came out in the early 2000s time, there's 4 and 5. Those aren't terrible. Some people hate them, but nothing touches this one. So I really like the third one, as I mentioned. But yeah, I would definitely say 5 out of 5 for myself.
Nice.
I mentioned my Facebook and Instagram on the last one, so I don't think I have to go into that every time, but if it turns into something. So our next one, I'm trying to get to the list unless you have it more handy. I'm trying to
flip through
what we were talking about, like some ideas, what we had for the next one that we wanted to do. But yeah, we got. I have too many ideas, so my list just keeps going.
I think as of right now, we have Tucker and Dale for the next one.
Okay. And then, doing the commentary. Yeah. Yep.
And then I think after that, and I think we mentioned it. So if not, here's the heads up, the Dead trilogy.
Oh right, yeah, that was in there too. That's true.
Yeah.
My list is just stuff that I keep thinking of, so I don't have an exact order. But I did have Tucker and Dale after that, so that'll be interesting. If you still want to do a commentary, that's cool, or we can just talk about the movie. It's easy, whatever's easier.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of facts about that, but I'm sure I could find some.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'll find some. I love that movie.
Yeah, definitely. So, what as of right now, what do you think? Like, what would you want to do the most? If you had to pick between the two, like just doing an episode or doing a commentary? What do you think would be best for you?
Let's do an episode, and then if people like it, let's definitely do a commentary for it.
All right, yeah, that works.
Get a feel for it, and hopefully people let us know this time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like and subscribe. I say that a lot, but it definitely helps us. We will definitely get to the Dead trilogy. I'm not sure I don't know when I'm up for that. Maybe we'll do it after that. But I did have
Yeah.
a couple other ones, like we had talked about doing Zombie. And we talked about doing Child's Play.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have a fun one coming up. I don't know when this will be, but when I mentioned to you about the top 10 non-horror movies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
a lot of people don't do that on horror channels, but we like other movies too. So
yeah, we're both just movie nerds, so
yeah,
we're gonna do it.
So it's definitely that could be one that we do in the next like few or something. That might be that would be fun. I don't know how hard. Do you think that one would be easier for you than when you did the horror one, or do you think it would be kind of just as challenging?
No, it's gonna suck.
What do you mean, like suck? Like it's still gonna be just as challenging?
It's gonna be just as challenging, yeah.
Oh, okay. So on the other hand, like you're not like that, but I could picture somebody being like, I hate you or fuck you. I'm ready whenever. My list has been done for a while because I just randomly make lists and I tweak them a little bit, but I already have mine. So, and I almost have a feeling that our list might be a little different because I have a feeling you'll probably have more action than there as opposed to me. I have more comedies, but maybe, who knows? Maybe not.
I'm a big comedy fan, but I definitely have some there's some action films that are always top tens for me.
Definitely. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then randomly I might do one, but I'll always run it by you if you wanna hop on if you're able to. I don't have any plans for one again anytime soon, but I think of so many ideas. You never know. So yeah, we'll shoot for the Tucker and Dale. I don't know how much I'll have to say about it, but I'm sure it'll go because we've talked about it. Even if we're repeating ourselves, whatever. But that's a newer one, so I actually don't. Like I said, I don't have a lot of facts about that. But I'm sure we can find stuff, or just talk about the movie in general and just geek out. I could even do like I did with Return, and we can just like go through the movie and randomly mention different facts and stuff.
Yeah,
that might be the easier way to do it. All right, so I have mine all queued and ready. It was right under Return of the Living Dead, so I guess you're right. Yeah, it was the next one. I have the Blu-ray. Do you have the Blu-ray or do you have the DVD?
I think I picked up the Blu-ray. I'm almost positive, but I have to double check.
I did too, actually, believe it or not, because even though as much as I love the movie, I'm like, I think I have that on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, getting on to our regular ramblings, and I know you've had a long day, so we'll call this one as Return of the Living Dead. I'm glad you loved it. Like I said, pretty much knew you would. So this was a fun one. It'll be cool next time because we've both seen it, and it's definitely fresh for you because you've mentioned it in your top 5 favorite horror movies. So maybe it'll be a little reverse. Maybe you'll probably know more than me, so you'll probably have more stuff to say on that one than normal, I guess. You know, so that'd be cool. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're cool in calling this one, if there's anything else you want to mention, go ahead. If not,
No, I'm good. I loved it. I was talking to my friend, and I actually watched this one solo, and I told her that I'm already excited to rewatch it with her. So,
awesome. Yeah, definitely. It's a great rewatch.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been the Horror of It All movie podcast. I'm Eric.
I'm still Adam.
Awesome. Until next time.